Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, a really big theological question: suffering and its purpose. And we're doing it by looking through a specific lens, this idea that God is the author of our lives.
Right.
We've got a stack of sources here that really push back on the common idea that, every tough time should end with everything neatly restored, maybe even doubled.
That divine authorship idea is perfect because it highlights the core tension right away, doesn't it? You see it starkly in the book of Job.
The classic example.
Absolutely. The Job's story, it's famous for that ending. Restoration, the doubling of everything. It feels like the perfect happy ending.
It does.
But here's the trap. If we only focus on the material side, the worldly happy ending, we risk thinking as transactional. Like, if I suffer enough, God owes me that kind of payback.
Like an unwritten contract.
Exactly. So our goal in this deep dive is really to look beyond that material payoff and see what our sources suggest is the real expectation, the eternal one, for all trials.
Okay, so we're zeroing in on the end of Job's story, passages like Job 2.7:16, but reading them less like a historical account and more like a framework.
Precisely. A framework for understanding why the author might give us a script that feels, frankly, impossible sometimes.
And what the true reward, the real payoff actually is. So let's start there with that classic ending in Job that perhaps misleads people. What did Job actually get back? Can you give us the sort of material rundown?
Yeah, it's quite dramatic. A real turnaround, often called the double blessing. The sources really emphasize that it happened after Job prayed for his friends.
Oh, that timing is key. An act of obedience first.
It seems so. After that prayer, the Lord reversed his fortunes and, yes, blessed him with literally twice what he had before the trials began.
Twice. That's more than just making him whole again.
That's exponential, yeah.
Yeah.
Practically speaking, his wealth doubled. We're talking livestock, possessions, everything. He went from utter ruin back to being incredibly prosperous.
Okay, wealth doubled. What about family? That part gets complicated.
It does, and it needs clarity. The sources say he had 10 new children. So this brings his total to 20.
Right. 10 now living with him, and the 10 he lost earlier.
Who are described as being with God. So it's not just replacing them numerically.
It's a statement about the family unit being whole, even across heaven and earth.
Exactly. The author writes an ending where the family is eternally complete. And there's another detail. Community support.
Yes.
Friends, relatives, they actually came with money. One source calls it a kind of reconstruction fund.
Helping him get back on his feet financially, securing that doubled status.
Pretty much. Helped him buy new livestock, rebuild assets.
So if you just look at the balance sheet, it's the perfect happily ever after. Health back, finances doubled, family restored. It ticks all the boxes for worldly success.
It really does.
But this is where our sources issue a major warning, isn't it? Taking Job's specific ending as the only model? That's risky.
That's the absolute critical theological point here. Job's ending was Job's ending. We can't misinterpret it as some kind of guarantee, a contract that says every trial must end with problem solved, pain healed, wealth doubled.
Because that's just not always how the script plays out.
No. The wider biblical narrative just doesn't consistently support that expectation. It sets people up for disappointment, even a crisis of faith, if they assume that's the deal.
Okay, so if the material stuff, the doubled flock, wasn't the ultimate prize, just maybe the cherry on top, where do the sources say the real value lies? What was the actual return on investment from all that suffering for Job?
The sources are quite clear. Job's greatest blessing wasn't the stuff. It wasn't even his health returning or reconciling with family. It was gaining a profoundly deeper knowledge of God.
Moving beyond just hearing about God.
To knowing God. Directly. Experientially. It was a fundamental shift in his relationship with the divine, non-transactional.
So less prosperity theology, more wisdom theology.
That's a good way to put it, yes. One author we looked at draws on the theologian G. Campbell Morgan.
Okay.
And Morgan had this insight. When God's patience meets Job's perseverance, the outcome is like pure gold refined by fire. It leads to the crown of life.
So the refining process is the reward, in a sense.
In a very real sense. The ultimate blessing isn't necessarily the trial ending, but the character transformation within the trial. And the core assurance, the thing that makes enduring it worth it, is knowing that God, the author, writes the final chapter, whatever that chapter looks like.
Okay, the material ending isn't the main point. Endurance, spiritual growth, trusting the author, that's the core. But if Job's ending isn't the only script, Well, let's look at the evidence. Our sources provide some really powerful counterexamples, don't they? Stories where the ending looks very different.
They do. Fascinating counterscripts that challenge that expectation of worldly reward for being faithful.
Mm.
Take Moses, for instance. Let's call it the Moses script.
Moses, 40 years leading people through the desert, incredible service.
40 years. Leadership, divine encounters, just sheer grinding endurance. And yet, the end of his script. He's forbidden from entering Canaan, the promised land.
He gets to see it, but not go in.
Exactly. And he accepts it. Submits without complaint. The sources really frame Moses' story as this ultimate lesson in, let's say, deferred reward. The physical goal he worked towards his whole life was secondary to God's confirmation of his service. He finished his script, but the reward was validation, not arrival.
That's incredibly challenging. It makes you ask, how do you stay motivated, keep serving, if the author's script says you see the finish line, but maybe not cross it yourself?
It's a profound question, and it connects, interestingly, to Zacchaeus, too. Think about what happened immediately after his repentance.
Right, the tax collector.
He wasn't rewarded with double wealth like Job.
Well,
Quite the opposite. He chose a kind of voluntary financial reduction, gave half his money away, paid back 4 times what he owed.
so his obedience led to less material wealth, not more.
Correct. But his reward, salvation. The author, in his script, clearly prioritized spiritual transformation over financial gain.
Okay. And then you have the apostles. Paul and Peter jump to mind immediately. Their lives read like a list of hardships.
Absolutely. Shipwrecks, beatings, jail time, constant opposition, all while spreading the gospel. Their script was practically defined by suffering.
And their end wasn't exactly a comfortable retirement.
No, martyrdom, not wealth or status. Their stories powerfully show that the material world isn't the ultimate measure of God's blessing or, a successful life of faith. Their suffering, their sacrifice was the way the author chose to conclude their impactful chapters.
This is where our sources bring in a historical example that really drives the point home, linking Job's kind of intense suffering to someone more modern, but without that material recovery. Dr. George Leslie Mackay.
Yes, the Mackay script. It's a compelling non-biblical parallel. Mackay was a Canadian missionary, went to Taiwan around age 27.
Dedicated his life there.
Completely. 3 decades. He deeply identified with the land, saw it as God-given. But his final chapter was incredibly difficult. He died at 57, throat cancer.
Likely from his work from preaching constantly.
Very likely, yes. Prolonged use of his voice. And here's the key part. He had immense faith. Job-level endurance, arguably. He prayed for healing.
But didn't receive that miraculous physical recovery Job did.
No, he faced the reality of terminal illness. He never went back to Canada. He's buried in Tamsui, Taiwan. His story really underscores the point. The divine script seems to prioritize the eternal mission, the purpose, over temporary comfort or physical well-being. He finished the course the author laid out, even though it ended in suffering and death far from home.
Wow, that's quite a collection of narratives.
Oh.
We have Job, maybe the outlier, getting the full material restoration. Then Moses, Zacchaeus, Paul, Peter, Mackay, arguably the majority pattern, where the reward is confirmation, salvation, a completed ministry, but definitely not worldly ease.
So what does this collection of stories, these different scripts, mean for you, the listener, when you're facing your own stresses?
Right, how do we apply this?
Well, these examples suggest that faith, at its core, means trusting the author's plan and committing to finishing the script you've been given, however challenging. It means submitting to that refining process.
And importantly, the sources don't demand we become unfeeling robots. They make room for the human response, right? The pain, the tears, even the complaints are acknowledged.
Absolutely. Being faithful doesn't mean you don't struggle or cry out. It means that through the struggle, whether it's pressure at work, chronic illness, money worries, family conflict, you hold on to the author, trusting him as Father.
So it's less about stoicism and more about persistent trust amidst the pain.
Exactly. And when we face modern suffering, we can maybe see echoes of these scripts. Are you in a Moses script moment, working towards something you might not see completed? The wisdom might be focusing on faithful submission to the process, not just the outcome.
Or perhaps a Mackay script situation, enduring illness with faith, but without that miracle cure.
Right. Then the focus shifts to trusting the eternal promise, relying on God's grace through the pain, rather than demanding the pain be removed.
It sounds like the big encouragement here is to actually shift what we pray for.
That's a powerful takeaway from the sources, yes. Instead of primarily praying for the suffering to stop, or demanding Job's double blessing.
Which might not be the script we're in.
Exactly. The recommendation is to pray more for the support needed to endure, praying for grace, for strength, for sustaining power, trusting the eternal promises more than seeking immediate material relief.
So it's moving from praying, God, change my script, to praying, God, give me the strength to play the part you've written for me.
Well put. It's about aligning our will with the author's narrative for our lives.
Okay. We've taken a really deep dive today into, well, a heavy but crucial topic. We saw that Job, yes, he got the spectacular material restoration, the doubled wealth, the restored family. But his greatest gain, the most valuable outcome, was that deeper knowledge of God, understanding his mysterious ways. And crucially, the sources show the ultimate blessing isn't tied to one specific type of happy ending. It's simply knowing that God authors the final chapter.
Right.
Even if that chapter looks like Moses gazing at Canaan from afar or Mackay dying of illness in Taiwan, the constant promise seems to be that character refined by fire.
And that brings us to a final thought, something provocative to chew on, drawn from the reflection questions in our source material.
Okay.
Given how profoundly Job was transformed, how deep his knowledge of God became through his ordeal, the question is posed. Can someone truly reach that depth of non-transactional knowledge, that intimate understanding of God, without experiencing some measure of profound, life-altering suffering themselves?
That's definitely something to reflect on as you go about your day, thinking about the unique script you find yourself in right now.